Wasabi Wallet. Unfairly private.
The Seed Signer is an open source, air-gapped hardware device that can be assembled from run-of-the-mill regular parts for very, very cheap. This helps eliminate elements of trust in both manufacturing and supply chain when getting a hardware wallet, given that nobody will even know that you're assembling one with the parts required. Today, we're going to take a look at how to assemble one and how to use it. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Shakepay.com. If you're buying Bitcoin in Canada, this is by far the easiest and best way to do it. You can easily fund your account with e-transfers that land so quickly, especially in my experience, so fast to fund your account. There are no deposit or withdrawal fees, which is amazing. And the fees to convert between dollars and Bitcoin are some of the cheapest in the country. They also have a ton of awesome features like being able to dollar cost average, set limit orders. They also have a lot of perks where if you refer somebody, you and them both get $10 as soon as the person does their first $100 purchase. This applies also if you sign up via the link down below. And once you refer somebody, you get access to shaking for sats, which means you can shake your phone once a day and get free sats for that. I can't say enough good things about these guys. You got to check them out. Links are in the show notes. Now, LEDN.io, you can use your Bitcoin for a variety of different services. In particular, if you're stuck and need to get your hands on dollars, but you don't want to sell your Bitcoin because, of course, that is a taxable event, and maybe you're worried about having to buy back in at a higher price. If you don't want to do that, you can use your Bitcoin-backed loan by depositing Bitcoin here and getting dollars to your bank account within 24 hours. Once you pay back those dollars, you get back the same number of sats. They also have savings accounts for Bitcoin and USDC, and they have their B2X offering if you're feeling mega bullish. Links are down below. Now, I do live on Bitcoin, and Bitrefill really helps me with this. They've just got so many gift cards for every store you can imagine, in any country you can imagine, and you can pay for it with Bitcoin, both on-chain and via the Lightning Network, as I do all the time. I love this thing, especially because you earn sats back as you shop, and they've got a great referral program if you got friends and family that may be interested. You guys know the Keystone Wallet, one of my most used Bitcoin hardware wallets. And this thing also, given that we're on the topic of air-gapped hardware wallets with a Seed Signer, this thing is badass when it comes to its QR air-gapping. It, of course, never plugs into anything internet connected. It's all done offline via QR code, keeping the keys to your money safe and away from malicious internet connections. They do have their Bitcoin-only firmware, which I highly recommend upgrading to, a secure element, and they interoperate with all my favorite wallets: Blue Wallet, Wasabi Wallet, Spectre, Sparrow, all the awesome ones. And this thing is badass in a multi-sig, and dare I say it would be badass alongside the Seed Signer in a multi-sig because they're both air-gapped. Be sure to check it out. Links are in the show notes. And finally, if you're backing up any important hardware wallet, you might want to get it in solid steel rather than just on paper, because that leaves you susceptible to water damage and fire damage, or if you're careless, just discarding the thing. Not so with solid steel. It mitigates some of those risks. So be sure to check out BillFodl over at privacypros.io, linked in the show notes. And with that, let's get into the Seed Signer. Let's just talk a little bit more about who this is for and why it's important. So not everybody is going to go out and assemble their own hardware wallet from parts. That is totally understandable, and I know that it's kind of above the level of expertise of the average person coming into Bitcoin. However, it is important that people can do this if they choose. The fact that there is now an easily assembled option with very cheap parts that anybody can go ahead and flash and use themselves means that you're eliminating trust in two different ways. Number one is from the manufacturer. If you're ordering a hardware wallet, then feasibly you don't really know what the parts are. You don't know what's inside of it. You don't know what it's doing. Also, on the way to being delivered to you, anything can happen in that supply chain, and you might receive something that is not as promised, so it could be tampered with along the way. Now, there are lots of things in place to kind of prevent these things from happening, but there are instances where things slip through the cracks. So what the seed signer does is it allows you to use open source software that can be audited by anyone, and use your own hardware, which you assemble yourself, again, eliminating those trust factors. So we're going to be taking a look at how to do exactly this. And yeah, let's jump into it. So here on the Seed Signer website, you can download the latest release and view the project on GitHub. So that's where you'll get the software, and we'll take a look at how to do this in a moment. And then up here at the top, if you click on hardware, it also shows you the parts that you need. So effectively a Raspberry Pi Zero, which is this board here, Waveshare LCD hat, which is the screen here with a few buttons. That you also need a Pi Zero compatible camera module, which is right here, and the micro SD card with at least 4 GB capacity. There's an 8 gig one in the picture here. Now, just so you know, what I ended up getting was, I'm just scrolling down here. So the Raspberry Pi Zero with the pins installed. So when I scroll up to the top here, you see these pins up top. That does not come default installed on the actual device. If you really want to, you can go and solder that stuff yourself. However, I don't have a soldering gun, so I ordered it with that already installed. Okay, so that's where I got that. The rest of this, the camera and the LCD hat and the SD card, micro SD card, I got those just off Amazon. I also got down below, it shows you the case. And so the case you can order, or you can actually print it yourself if you've got a 3D printer, because it is also open source. So yeah, pretty cool. Anyways, so this is what I have. We'll take a look at the parts and we'll assemble from what is in front of me right now. And if you're curious, I will add this link, but just go to seedsigner.com and click on hardware, and it will tell you exactly what you need to get. So first up, we are going to get the software portion of this out of the way so that it's ready on our SD card. So I already have my 8 GB SD card plugged into my computer right now. And what I'm going to do is just on the Seed Signer website, I can either download the latest release right on the front page or head over to software and it'll send me here. Same thing, latest release. Okay. And it just says download latest release, seedsigner.image.zip file. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, click that, and here it's just, we're going to scroll down and we're going to click on this top one, Seed Signer 044 image.zip. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. It's going to start downloading. I actually already did download it, so I'm going to cancel that, and I can see it's right here on my desktop from before. And we are going to just double click it, and this will unzip the file that we need. Perfect. And now we've got this image. This is what we need right here. Now you can see I've already got my as I said, my micro SD card plugged in. I can see it on my desktop here. But we are also going to need a piece of software called, and they even tell you on the website, Balena Etcher, which is over on this website right here, balena.io/etcher. Okay, I've already downloaded that. That's already installed on my computer. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is it right here. Okay, it's very simple. All we're going to do is we're going to click on Flash from File. And on our desktop, it's the image, not the zip one, the one that was created when we double clicked the zip file. So Seed Signer 044 image, or something different if it's been updated since this video. We're going to select our target disk, which we want that 8 GB one. So that would be this one right here. Okay, I can see that's around 8 gigs. Select. And then I'm going to click flash. What this does, oh, and I also need to type in my computer password to get this done. Okay. Perfect. So what this is doing is it's taking the software, it's putting it onto my micro SD card and turns it into a bootable actual operating system for our device. Okay, so we'll be back when this is finished. All right, this is now finished. My SD card has been flashed with the Seed Signer firmware, and we can simply close down Balena Etcher and eject the card and start assembly. Let's take a look at what we have in terms of parts here. Of course, we do have our micro SD card that we were just adding our firmware to. In front of me, I've also got the LCD hat that I ordered, and there's no cords or anything with it. There's just pins from the other part will go in here afterwards. Okay. I've got the Pi Zero, and this is the one that I ordered with the pins already soldered in. Otherwise, these pins would not be attached, and it would just be a flat board. But I don't have a soldering gun to kind of do this work here, so I just ordered it as I showed you from the website as this single piece. Okay. I also have a Pi Zero a camera, which looks like this, and this thing comes with a few different ribbon cables. I'll show you them. There's a really little one. There's a larger one, but the one that I'm actually going to be using is this one here. The reason being is that the size of the attachment for the actual for the Pi Zero and the camera require two different sizes because they're going to be attached in the ends here. And as you can see with this particular ribbon cable, there's a thicker end and there's a slimmer end on the other side, and I need that difference there. So that means that these two other ribbon cables are just going to be put to the side. I don't need them. And then finally, what I've got here is my case, which I ordered. I don't have a 3D printer, so I just ordered this. It came with the buttons that we'll be using momentarily. And then I also, just in here, I've got some screws and risers that came with it, just to help assemble it all together. So let's start piecing this thing together. So first things first, I'm just going to take the SD card and I'm going to slide it into the Pi Zero. There's a little slot at the top here, and it goes. All done with that. Next up, we're going to deal with the camera. Okay, so I'm going to take the camera itself. I'm also going to take the two-sided ribbon cable with a thick end and a slim end. I'm going to look for the thick end, and I'm looking for the pins, the gold pins there on this side. Okay. Now on the camera itself, on the back side, there is a little bar that can be pulled out from either end, which will allow me to slide the ribbon cable in. So it's just this little black plastic piece, and you can kind of shimmy it from either side. So it's just looser. Okay, and then I'm going to take the ribbon cable with the gold part of it pointed towards the camera side. Okay, so the camera's on top and the gold is pointing up towards the camera so that it's facing outwards with the camera. Okay, so gold side is going in here in that little slot. And once it's in there, once it goes all the way in, then you can push down that black bar to secure it. Okay, so I'll just do that for a sec. You can kind of do that with both fingers, one on either side. You don't need to push too hard, but just get it secure in there. You'll kind of feel it snap into place. All right, so that is now connected, all set. Jumping back to the Pi Zero, same thing that you just did on the camera. There's that little black bar up top. You can shimmy it on either side, kind of get your fingernail in there just to loosen it up. And there it is. Okay. And then we're going to take the other side of the ribbon cable, which is also now connected to our camera. And same thing, we're going to get the gold portion with the pins facing down towards the board. So if I've got my pins pointing up, I want the gold portion facing down. So I'm just going to slide that in there. Once again, with 2 fingers, you can kind of push it down into place. Okay, that feels secure to me. So I've got that. Camera and Pi 0 all together as one. Perfect. Now, I will say that I'm going to start putting this into the case. However, you may want to do a test run first without using the case, just because it's a bit of a pain in the ass to pry this thing back out if anything isn't connected properly. I'm okay with doing this now because I did a little dry run of it about a week back. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm taking the bottom part of the case with the camera hole, and I'm going to be putting the camera into that little slot. By the way, there's probably a little sticky thing on the camera just to cover it, cover the lens. You can take that off if you please. And we can start sliding that in. You can see there's a little square slot. You want room for the ribbon, so you want the ribbon going away from the part that protrudes more. I'll show you that in a second. So it'll look something like that with the camera on the other side. Now that the camera is seated in there, what you're going to need to do is, let's see, you have the cable coming out, the pins, face the pins down towards the device, and now you're just going to kind of roll it over so that you get everything kind of circling around, okay? At this point, you're going to gently just let the thing drop into the slots so that all of the pieces and all the ports are in line and pretty like that. So now we need to screw this thing into the bottom of the enclosure. You're going to need a really little Phillips head screwdriver made for glasses or for computers. Okay, so at this point, we're also going to be using the screws and the risers, which are the long screws that came with it, and these little thick risers. So all you do, and I'll just show one, but there's little screws in the bottom there that can go in, and the risers would go obviously on top. So I'll just put a riser in there, and I'll put a screw in the bottom. I'll screw it together, and I'll show you what it looks like with just one of them in. Okay, so there we've got one in. You can see the screw in the bottom there. We're going to do that 3 more times. All right, we got this all screwed in, so you can see all 4 screws through the bottom there, and up top we see those 4 little risers, and that's what you're going to screw the LCD hat onto, okay? And then we've got a ribbon here. We're going to do some fancy, careful folding with that to get the LCD on. So the folding can be tricky. You don't want to actually cinch anything here, but I'm just going to kind of show you how I do it. I hold one end down, and then I fold over, and then it kind of comes together like this, okay? And look at these pins. That's going to be the next important part, because on the bottom of the LCD hat, there's a receptacle to actually get the pins in. You're basically going to line those up and then just push down kind of edge by edge until it gets seated in there, okay? So I just kind of, I line it up, and then I'm going to push down. So I'll just do that off camera for a second. When you push it down, it'll go flush with those risers that you put in before and basically just sit flat to them, okay? And you'll have it sitting on top like that. You can take off the cover as well, okay? We've got a little bag of buttons and 4 black screws. We're going to use those 4 black screws to just put into the 4 remaining holes to screw down the LCD hat. Great, so that is all screwed in. Everything's in place, nice and strong. Now we got to deal with the top part and the buttons, okay? So this piece, we're actually going to take the individual buttons and just kind of drop them into place so that they're hanging out there. So I've got the buttons in, okay? They just sit in there. And now you've got to take the actual device and kind of gradually get it in. One tricky part is that there's the joystick. and the little nub that goes in it, you got to make sure that the joystick actually goes into the little hole in that nub there. Okay, so it's a little bit of tinkering. You might have to kind of play around and get it on top there so it's actually seated in the right place. But we'll tinker a little bit, and once you feel that you're in the right place, you snap it together. And when it's all put together, it will look like this. Got a nice little orange pill here. Ports are on top. You got your buttons, all clicky. You've got a joystick that can go up, down, side to side, and actually clicks itself too. We can power this thing on and start seeing how it works. So now we're just going to test a few things out, make sure everything is working as planned. As I alluded to before, you may not want to actually screw everything in before you do these tests, but that's what we're going to be doing right now. And you'll also notice I've taken off the faceplate. Just for the purposes of this video, I find interacting with the keys this way is a little bit more fluid at the moment. But that said, I'll be putting on the faceplate again afterwards. Now we need to power this thing. And so what you're going to need to have is just a regular USB to micro USB cable. Lots of people have those kicking around. In fact, this one's actually an old Ledger one that I have. So we're going to be using that. You can literally plug this into anything, but if you really want to be kind of hardcore about it, you can use a power block in the wall, of course, or I'm actually going to be using this. It's cold power. It is from the CoinKite website, and basically it's a 9-volt battery, and it gives you a way to plug into it. And so you know that it's not connecting to anything related to the internet. And then I would just put this in up top. Perfect. And then I'll just I'll flick this on here. But I can see things flashing, so I know it's working. It does take a moment to boot up, so give it some time, and that could be improved in future firmware releases. The only other thing that I'm going to have here for these tests is my phone, because I need a QR code just to do one of these tests, just to make sure the camera's working. Once we boot up here, this is the main screen. You can see a menu here: seed tools, scan QR, settings, power off. Okay, so we're going to go down to settings, and you navigate up and down, side to side with the joystick. These are for when you have options on your screen. If you've highlighted something, you can select it by pressing down on the joystick, as I will on settings. Okay, so I want to go down, 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 down to input/output tests. I'm going to select that. And this basically shows your buttons right here. And you can just check up works, side, side, down, middle, button, button, and the exit button works like a charm. Okay, great. Now on that screen, I will say at the moment of doing this video, it says scan any QR as well when I do that. So I'll just go back to it for a sec. Down at the bottom, it does say scan any QR code. I spoke with the lead developer, and he said it's like the only outstanding bug that he's aware of right now. So the QR here may not function if you're doing it on 0.4.4, but in future releases, I'm sure it's fixed. Anyways, so I'm going to exit. You can just check that by returning to the main menu and just going to scan QR. And I can see that my camera opens up, and just to check that it scans, obviously this is not how it's meant to be used, but you can scan any QR code. If it's not like a Bitcoin QR code or something valid, it will just say not a valid PSBT. Okay. So anyways, all of everything is working, and it looks like we're good to go. We can start using this thing. So in this next portion, we're going to be utilizing, as we set up the seed signer, we're going to be utilizing this sheet here, which you can download and print from the GitHub for seed signer. I will post the link down below, but basically we're going to be creating our wallet backup here. Not even backup, we're going to create the wallet seed, and we're going to create a QR code that the seed signer will utilize to sign and approve transactions. Okay, so just know that that link is in the show notes, and you can print it off and use it through this setup. So to set this up, what we're going to do is we're going to choose Seed Tools, and we're going to scroll down, and we're going to, and this is just the easiest way that I found to do it, that I tend to gravitate towards, generate seed with image. And what this is going to do is you're going to take a picture with the camera on this device, and it's going to use tiny bits of information from the picture you take to generate your 24-word seed phrase, aka the keys to your money. So effectively, unless somebody at some point, somehow, as you take the picture, is able to get the image off of this device, which if you've just built it, the chances of that are effectively zero. People will not be able to regenerate the seed phrase. So I'm going to select, and it initializes the camera, and I'm just going to point to like a random kind of off-kilter part of my office, and then I'm going to tap to take the image. And then if that looks good, it says go to the left to reshoot or go to the right to accept. I'm going to accept. And from that, it generates a 24-word seed phrase. So this is page 1. I'm going to write this down and then scroll to page 2 and do the same. And then we'll see what happens after that. Once you've written all of your 24 words down, you can click to exit, or I can go to the right for a QR export. And so what this is an easily referenced QR code that the seed signer can scan to approve transactions. Now, as I mentioned before, the seed signer does not hold any information in it after I unplug it. The moment it gets unplugged or powered down, all of this information is removed. So if somebody were to steal it, they literally have nothing. This is a signing device that is explicitly meant to just import and approve transactions, as well as the credentials to do so. Okay, so what this is used for, and let me just transition the screen here. What this is used for is to be able to transpose this QR code onto the PDF file that we downloaded previously. And if you click, let me just transition once more. If you click with the middle of the joystick, it zooms in on quadrants of the QR code for you to transpose. And you move over to the next, and it gives you exactly the dots that you need to fill in. And again, I'll bring up the QR code that I have on my screen here as an example. So we can see that already some of this is filled in, and this is what we're seeing kind of in this corner here. And if I scroll over, we can see what else we need to fill in. We are filling in the dark parts. We are filling in the black dots. And it doesn't need to be an exact science. If you go outside the lines a little bit, you will be totally fine. I found the best way to do it is just take a Sharpie and add little dots in the squares that need to be filled in. Okay, so we're going to jump to that. I'm going to give a quick example of how to do that, and then I will fill in the rest, and you can see the finished product. So just to reiterate what we're looking at here, this shows quadrant 1A. And on the sheet that I have, even though it's really light, you can see 1A. So we can see the corner of this square is already filled in. If I move over to the side, it's just capturing the outer edge of the square here, and I need to fill in the rest. Okay, so I'm filling in the black portions, and I need to do that for quadrant 2A. So I'm just going to grab my Sharpie and fill in these black dots that I see on the screen to reflect within that 2A square. Okay, so you can see that I already had this bar going straight down was already by default in there, but I needed to add in this one going down to the side and down, and I did that just with dots within the correct quadrant. So I'm going to do that for every quadrant of this entire QR code, and this will be my reference piece of paper to utilize with the seed signer. So let's take a look at what it looks like when it's all finished. Ooh, just finished. This is what it looks like. These are all literally Sharpie dots with the exception of those clean squares that you see that were already there. And I just did it quadrant by quadrant with the seed signer, filling them in. Yeah, it's actually was kind of fun because part of you is like, is this actually gonna scan? Is this gonna work? And you'll see that it's going to. It's really cool. So let's check that out. So to exit the QR code transcription, you just tap in the middle with the joystick there. Now it says, do you want to save the seed? This would just be for current use while it's plugged in. You can go ahead and do that if you like. I'm actually going to say no right now because I want to show you what it looks like starting from fresh with just our paper. Okay, I'm even going to turn off the seed signer so that all information on it is now gone. Okay, and we're going to figure out how to utilize this, but not before we get the seed signer exported into our Blue Wallet. It seems like a great time to reiterate what we have in front of us. So I've just rebooted the seed signer, and at this time there is no information on it whatsoever regarding the wallet that we already set up. Okay, the only copy of that information is on this piece of paper now, and it's represented in two forms. There is a list of 24 English words and the same information represented in a QR code. Both of these are the backups to any money that resides on this wallet. The seed signer will just use this information as credentials to approve transactions. All right. Furthermore, the seed signer will not be giving us addresses to send to or anything like that. We're actually going to export some information from the seed signer to our phone via Blue Wallet, and Blue Wallet will become our interface for sending and receiving transactions, and seed signer, as the name implies, will just sign those transactions to approve them. Now, before we start importing this to our Blue Wallet for our interface, we're actually going to go, and I'm just going to zoom a little here so that you guys can see a bit better. We're going to go and I'm just going to change one setting here. We're going to go down to settings. We're going to scroll down until we see persistent settings. So that means that any setting that you change, currently it's set to no, so any settings changed during the session would not be retained. But I want my settings to be retained, so I'm going to click on that and I'm going to click yes. Okay, persistent settings, keep settings saved across reboot. Seeds are never saved. So it'll never save my wallet information, but it will save any sort of changes that I make within the settings. Okay, that sounds great. Okay, now, what I do want to change here is, especially for this video, I want to do a single signature wallet. Okay, it defaults to multi-sig. If you're unfamiliar with multi-sig, then you're probably not diving into it right now. If you are familiar, I'm not covering it in this video, but just know that it is there and it is the default. So I need to click on this and I'm going to go down to single sig and I'm going to keep that there. Perfect. I've got my settings the way I want them. That's all I need to change there. Wonderful. What I want to do now is I want to get a watch-only wallet, meaning that I can only receive funds on my phone, but my phone does not have the credentials to spend. I want to get that onto my phone, and I'm going to do that by going to Seed Tools, and then Xpub from Seed. And you could type in your words that you've written down previously here, or you can just scan a Seed QR code. And let's see how this QR code works. Apparently, like a charm. So It scanned just fine. It says, do you want to add a passphrase? You can add a passphrase to any of these wallets. What would that do? Well, it basically adds an additional word to your backup phrase so that if somebody got a hold of your piece of paper with your credentials on it, it would effectively be useless to them and only show them a zero balance unless they knew there was a passphrase and they knew what that passphrase was. Okay, so you can do that. I'm not going to do it for the purposes of this video. Just again, no, it's an option. So I'm going to say no. Okay. It now shows me, after having scanned the QR code, it shows me the words that we wrote down before. So you can actually confirm that they're all right. Perfect. Looks wonderful. Right to continue. This is my XPub info. So I'm going to be exporting this to Blue Wallet and allowing that wallet to see my addresses and receive funds and start to construct a transaction to send, but it won't have the credentials to do so. I'll need the seed signer for that. So right to continue. And it says, what wallet do you want to use it with? We're going to be using Blue Wallet, the middle option. And that gives us a handy QR code that we will be able to scan with our phone. And we're going to do that right now. I'm going to zoom out. And within Blue Wallet, so if you're unfamiliar with Blue Wallet, I do have a full tutorial on how to use it. You can go back. It's in the show notes as well. Check it out if you want that. Otherwise, if you've used Blue Wallet before, we're just going to add a new wallet. If you're going from fresh, there will just be add new wallet in the middle of your screen. Otherwise, it's the little plus sign in the top right. And we're going to tap import wallet down at the bottom. Then we're going to tap scan or import a file. We're just going to scan that QR code from the seed signer. Perfect. It says your wallet has imported successfully and it is a watch only wallet. And I can tap on it. And here's our interface. Now we can receive and send transactions from Blue Wallet, and then we need the seed signer to approve them if we're sending out. But this gives us everything. We have our balance up top. We have our receive screen. We have our send screen. And it says this wallet is not being used in conjunction with an offline signing device. Would you like to enable it now? And I'm just going to hit OK for now, of course. Okay. So now we can do everything we need to do from Blue Wallet other than sign transactions. So let's get some Bitcoin into this wallet and start using it. Oh, and by the way, on the seed signer, if you just tap right, it will go back out to the main screen and none of that information was retained. It's all blank because we just utilized the device to convey some information from this paper through the seed signer into Blue Wallet. It wasn't retained. And if we were worried about that, we could just shut it off and it would definitely be wiped at that point. All right, transaction number one. Let's get some money into this wallet. I'm going to open up my imported watch only wallet. You can rename it if you choose to. I'll just leave it as is for now. I'm going to hit receive. There's my Bitcoin receiving address. I can tap to copy just like a regular Blue Wallet. We'll go back out. We'll go to another wallet that I have sitting on here. We're going to hit send. We will paste in that address and we'll send over about $20 worth. We'll set our fee. I'll hit next. Okay, do you want to send this amount of Bitcoin to this address with a fee? I'm going to hit send now. Everything looks good. And off it goes. If I back out and go back to this imported, I can swipe down to refresh. And we can see an incoming transaction to our seed signer, aka this information on this paper right here. We'll be back in a moment when that confirms, and we're going to practice sending out of the wallet. Our transaction is now confirmed, so now we can test sending out of the wallet and see what that workflow would look like. So I'm just going to dive back over to my hot wallet in Blue Wallet and get a receiving address. So I'll just copy that and hop back out. And let's go over to our watch only seed signer wallet. I'm going to hit send and I'm going to paste in that address And I'm going to use the full balance, okay? Great, so we've set all that. Let's check our fee. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to hit next. And this is a partially signed Bitcoin transaction. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the seed signer to scan this, get the information we need, and then sign it with our seed phrase. Now, I will say that you can reverse the order in which I do this and save the seed, which I'll touch on momentarily. But this is how we would do it, just constructing the transaction and starting from here. Okay, so I'm just going to put my wallet down here. I've got the seed signer. And all we're going to do from the main screen, this has been rebooted. All the information is cleared. The only exception is I set it so that my settings wouldn't change. So it's on single sig right now. So I'm going to go down one and hit scan QR code. QR code from my phone. It says this is valid. Enter seed phrase to sign this transaction. Go right to continue. Okay, now it says you can input your words here, or you can scan a seed QR code, which would be this. So we'll just replace my phone here. Have the seed QR code. I'm going to enter that. It's going to open my camera again. It said valid seed. Do you want to add a passphrase to this? We'll hit no because we didn't before. And I can see this is the correct set of words. Do you want to save the seed? I'm going to say yes for now. And we'll just save it in. We get 3 slots. Slot number 1. Right to continue. And then it says you're going to go ahead and sign the transaction. Now, if we hadn't saved the seed, it would still be doing the same thing. This all looks good. Right to continue. Now, this creates an animated QR code. And this is the information we need to get to Blue Wallet. Because Blue Wallet right now is waiting on us to approve said transaction. This is basically our wallet saying, this is the signature that gives the credentials to send out your money. So within Blue Wallet here, I'm going to click on Scan Signed Transaction. I'll get this paper out of the way. Scan Signed Transaction. We're just going to scan this rotating QR code. Perfect. Your transaction's hex signed and ready to be broadcasted to the network. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit send now. And off it goes. We have signed that transaction. Swipe down to refresh. Balance updates. And there's our incoming transaction to the other wallet. Beautiful. Now, I wanted to touch on one other thing here. If you want to be doing multiple things at once with a single seed, perhaps you have multiple transactions, you need to export some information at the same time, you have a bunch of stuff to do, more or less. You can temporarily save this information onto your device, as we saw was an option when we scanned it the last time anyways, but you can do that in advance so that it's just regularly accessible. Again, keep in mind, as soon as you boot this thing down, all that information will be wiped. But while the power is going to it, it will be ready and accessible for you. And you can do that with up to 3 keys. All right. So let's go into Seed Tools and Temp Seed Storage. And you can see there are 3 slots here that you can use in order to store seed information and interact between them. Okay. Alternatively, so we could go to one of these slots and select it, and we would be able to scan a QR code. Great. Alternatively, you can just scan the seed right away from the get-go and do that as well, but we'll do it from here. We'll hit scan QR code. Valid seed. Right to continue. Okay, and it shows your words. You can just confirm that's the right seed. Save to slot 1, right to exit. Perfect. And now when I go to temp seed storage, I can see seed slot 1 is saved there, and I can see all of the information about it. I don't need to scan again. If I want to redo my QR code and write it down again, I can zoom in and get all that information as well. Okay. So all of that is right there, and it can be handy again if you've got a few different tasks to get through. I really want to reiterate kind of the gravity of what is sitting in front of me on the desk here, because some people may look at this and go, why would I go through those extra steps? And this seems more difficult than just having a ledger or a Trezor. And yes, there are additional steps here. You're putting pieces together, you're transcribing a QR code, you're doing all of these things. But the important takeaway here is that it's possible to do this. You can do this effectively, trustlessly, with run-of-the-mill parts that can be found anywhere, on using software that you can verify yourself, basically creating a seed phrase, a backup to your wallet from an image that you take yourself. You can audit all of the code if you choose to do so. You know that the parts have come from different manufacturers around the world. You're eliminating all of this trust. And when you really get down to thinking about it, if someone can piece this together with, again, standard computer parts from nothing and transcribe a QR code onto a piece of paper like this that is scannable for offline cold storage, how do you stop Bitcoin? In what world can you stop something like this where this is even possible? It truly does blow my mind that I could put this together in a day and take a Sharpie and draw dots on a piece of paper and create a secure vault for my savings, with nobody to tell me no, and for nobody to even know that I own a hardware wallet. That's another key takeaway here. If you order something and it's under your name or goes to your address, then there's an indication somewhere that at some point you owned Bitcoin. But in an instance like this, again, nobody knows if you're ordering a little Raspberry Pi to create some other electronic device or a Bitcoin hardware wallet. In fact, a hardware wallet is probably the last thing on somebody's mind when they see that they're shipping you a Raspberry Pi. So again, to me, it really hit home of how unstoppable this makes Bitcoin, how unstoppable a lot of the things in Bitcoin make it, and this ethos of don't trust, verify, being emulated through do-it-yourself hardware wallets amongst many, many other things being built out there. So this gets me excited. I had a lot of fun putting this together. And even if you're unsure that you would use this regularly, it's still a super fun project just to see how it works and put it together and go, oh my God, I built a hardware wallet and it works. Pretty mind-blowing. Anyways, guys, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about the Seed Signer in the comments down below. As always, if you're here on YouTube, please do hit like, subscribe, share. All of those things really, really do help this content get in front of more people. If you want to help the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors down below: Shakepay, LEDN, Bitrefill, Keystone, and BillFodl, all in the show notes. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin tip via my Strike page. That is strike.me/BTC sessions. When you get there, you can type in any amount you like. You hit the tip button down below. You'll be greeted with a Lightning invoice, or if you click to the right, a regular Bitcoin QR code. With that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be, and I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.